And welcome back to Scarred for Life, the podcast where we open up old wounds by looking back at the films that scared us as kids. I'm Terry.
And I'm Mary Beth.
And each episode, our special guest brings with them a movie that traumatized them as a child.
This week, our guest is writer and podcast host Cass Clarke. They co-host the Horror Hangover podcast, and you've read their writing in places like Slash Film, Fangoria, Marvel, and more. And they also have a novella called The Caretaker coming later this year from Hear Us Scream Press. You're not busy at all. Welcome to the show.
Oh my goodness. Thank you. Lovely intro and very excited to be here. So thank you for having me.
Of course. We're really excited to chat with you, and especially about the pick that you brought today. But before we do get to that, let's talk about some of your creative stuff. So what is this novella that's coming out later this year?
Yeah, so it's coming out from Hear Us Scream Press. It is the debut year of Hear Us Scream, going from like a collective of like doing like podcasting and reviews and whatnot to transitioning to also being a publication, which is so
cool. I'm so like,
so
it's
cool.
So cool to see how much Hear Us Scream has grown. It's just like
so
amazing. I love it.
Yeah, we love to see it, and like it's both kind of like, I feel like I'm having a lot of like out of body experiences to be like, no pressure, like first year publication, one of like the first authors they signed, it's fine. But yeah, it's a queer horror novella. It is about an estranged daughter who goes home to take care of her mother's things after she passes away. And along the way, we find out that the hospice bed that she was inhabiting is haunted. And her ex-girlfriend comes to help, and her ride-or-die cousin is in the mix, and a lot of ghosts, a lot of body horror, and hopefully a nice meditation on grief and being a badass.
Haunted hospice bed? Holy shit.
Yeah,
that's heavy as hell, but I love it.
Yes.
But like, and I mean that as a compliment, not as anything bad. That's amazing.
Yeah, thank you. It's really weird because I wrote it, but I think hopefully it's tender and scary, which is kind of my vibe too. Like that's kind of like what I like.
What an incredible, like that's the vibe, the tender and scary.
Yeah, so if you like feelings and feel like gore, that's probably something in there for you.
Right up my alley, right there.
So I'm curious, when you started writing, did you want to write nonfiction or fiction? Did you set out wanting to write nonfiction or fiction first?
I set out explicitly wanting to write fiction. I went to Emerson College to get an MFA, which got me like $100,000 in loans, but also a husband. So,
hey,
I always tell him that. I'm like, listen, I love you. Yes, every penny.
That's how I feel about grad school too, but I didn't get a husband out of it, but I did get a lot of debt.
A career. Yeah, it's lovely debt. I'm just imagining, like imaginary money. I feel like the only way to feel less stressed about is watching Succession and their Monopoly money, where I'm just like, what is even money? It's all fake. It's fine. It's
fucking fake anyway.
It's all fake. Just throw me in a gold mine. I'll figure it out. But yeah, I started off trying to write fiction and writing fiction, but I ended up just going back to nonfiction. Sorry, there's my dog in the background. Lyra Elvira says hi, by the way.
Oh, puppy. It's not a Scarred for Life podcast recording without animals interjecting. So.
It's one of us will have an animal come in, if not yours. So thank you, Lyra Elvira, for being the first.
What a name.
Yeah,
I love that.
She's a thing.
But yes. Perfect creature.
Started doing nonfiction mostly because it was something that like I was like, oh, I think I can do this. And I think for me, like writing fiction, it has always been pretty personal. And I feel like rejection fears go strong with that. But for whatever reason, like that switch in my brain with nonfiction is just not there. Like I can pitch like a motherfucker and I'm like, you feel like it? That's great. If not, like it's all good. Like, and I feel like that world always felt like just easier to understand, or fiction, especially the fiction that I was like, quote unquote, trained to write, like more literary fiction. It's just very elitist and like classist, and it just brings up some icky feelings. So I think that it's interesting, but also like I shouldn't be surprised that after like writing so much about horror, like from reviews and interviews and whatnot, and comics too, that eventually I found my way back to being like, I love stories and I want to tell stories. And I've talked to so many creators and like hearing the joy they feel when they like made something, I was like, you know what, it can just be fun again. So this was a whim project, but ended up turning into something that I am proud of. So thank you.
Oh, it's amazing.
Hell yeah.
I'm glad. I know what you mean though. It's like when you are like, oh, this doesn't feel fun anymore, but then you come back to it and you're like, wait, now I do want to go back to this. And it's like,
Yes.
It's kind of serendipitous that it turned out to be this like cool novella. Is this your first published novella?
Yes, it'd be like the first book. So yeah, it's like I wish I remember the name of it. I think it's the David Foster Wallace has this like great essay about that cycle that you go through as a writer, where like you start off like really loving it and wanting it to be your thing, and then like you professionalize it, and then you like hate it, and then all of a sudden somewhere along the lines you fall back in love with it. And he talks about like the writing life. It's just that cycle, and like it goes through like dips and valleys. So whoever remembers the name of that essay, let me know. But it's a good one.
And then you also have a podcast that I have guested on. Can you tell us a little bit about Horror Hangover?
Yeah, so that was birthed in the pandemic, like many podcasts. It was really a way just to kind of sort of stay sane and to keep in touch with one of my best friends, Ryan, who lives in Texas, who had just had a baby. And it's a monthly-ish is like the way I like to talk about it, because we do drop one episode a month, but every once in a while, if I get ambitious, like 2 or 3, it's a wild card over there. But yeah, it's we try to tackle a horror trope or something that is really familiar in horror, and we break down the history. It's like we do like a very quick like 101, like here are the main films that cover this and the genre that we know of that we can speak to, and then we usually focus on one like indie darling pick that does it well, and then like just a classic. And we have guests like Mary Beth on. Terry, you're also more than welcome to come on as well.
Please.
And talk about all the things. Mary Beth has an episode coming up out with us soon about found footage, and we talked about the Blair Witch Project, and I think I like just left my body. I was so happy talking about it.
It was the best. Well, transitioning into like your horror history, how did you get into horror?
Yeah, I think like most people, I was seeing a movie way too young, and then watching what that did to me. I saw Jaws at this point, I feel like I say 4 or 6. I was definitely like old enough where like my feet didn't touch the floor on the couch. Yep. So like young, you know.
I had a very similar experience with Jaws. Yep. Fucking movie.
That movie fucked up a lot of people.
So many. But yeah, so it was Jaws with my dad, and I wasn't really allowed to watch scary movies in my house because I'm not anymore, but I was raised like traditional Roman Catholic, so a lot of guilt and shame around that. But I would have the outlet of like, you know, the cousin's house and sleepovers where you would sneak them in here and there. But yeah, I think it really does start with Jaws. I remember like my response to that was just getting obsessed with learning about sharks, even though it terrified me.
Me too.
Right? Like, so I was like, this makes me comforted. And like, I can kind of see it as like, I guess the evolution of that is like me wanting to be my own like final girl or final zaddy, where it's like I'm in the closet like reading like reading all these like scholastic like book cover books about like how to survive a shark attack, and I was like, I'm getting my little toolbox out, I'm gonna be the one that will like punch that shark in the nose. Like I got so into it. It's very geeky, but that's I think that started something for sure.
I swear to God, I feel like my grandfather showed it to me too, and I think like people just don't think that it's a horror movie. It's like I don't think like older generations think it's a scary movie, and they show it to you and like, yeah, it's not scary, and I'm like, this is the scariest thing I've ever seen in my entire life. And I mean, I was 4.
Have you seen the opening of the film?
Exactly, that's the thing to me that's always blown my mind. Like you thought this
it literally
for a
starts
child?
At a 10.
Yes, it does.
Yeah. Also, like there's boobies. I mean,
there's boobies and like an ocean of blood.
Yeah, like it's wild to me that so many people were like, yeah, this is a fine thing to show a child.
Yeah, I mean the layers on that too, because like I grew up in Rhode Island, which is the ocean state, so like I was never attacked by a shark, but there's like I know people. And also know people that know people who have like seen sand sharks, seen tiger sharks, who go surfing. So it's just like this could happen. And then the way my parents wanted to resolve this like childhood trauma was they took me on the Universal Studios ride of the Jaws like contraption. And I was convinced that I knew it wasn't real. But I was like, what if that shark malfunctioned like it did in the film, and I'm going to fall off this boat and this shark is going to eat me and I'm going to get stuck in this robot shark. I was terrified. It did not work.
So can I just tell a very short personal anecdote about the Jaws ride, because that makes me laugh. So my whole family was Universal Studios, and my younger brother, he is 2 years younger than me. We went on the Jaws ride. He got so scared he tried to jump out of the boat, and we were like, "Where do you think the shark is, my brother?" And he was just like so scared of it. He tried to jump out of the boat. We had to like grab him by the waist and pull him back in. We were like, "No, it's not real."
Oh my God, I'm right there with your brother. I'm sorry.
He was so scared. I know. And like, I feel bad. We like, he laughs about it now, but at the moment he was so terrified. And he like loved being like, I'm a tough guy. And then that happened and he lost it. He was like a teenager and he was so embarrassed, but it was like kind of funny. But I know it is a scary ride. Like, I'm sad it's gone because it is a really good ride.
I'm very sad it's gone.
Yeah.
Because I had like, it's that ride has been like kind of the, what's the word I'm looking for? I guess the white whale in some ways of rides that I always wanted to go on, like as a kid. Because I remember there was one time, I don't remember, it was on some broadcast network channel, but they were like really hyping up Universal Studios, and they had like little clips of rides, and one of them was this guy in this little boat. I think it was like the original Jaws because it was reiterated a few times, but there was like a fisherman in a boat. And like someone's talking, oh my gosh, Phil, don't, or I don't even know what his name is, but it's like, watch out for the shark. And then the boat kind of tips over and it goes, ah. And I was like, I want to be on this ride. And my parents never went and never wanted to go anywhere except to like visit my grandparents for like vacations. And so it wasn't until like late 20s that I actually got to go on the Jaws ride. And it was literally, I think, the year before they closed it.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, thank God I got
thank God.
Ride.
Oh, man. That's like, I think my great white, you're just saying it, like, my, like, white whale is like, the elevator one. Is it the Haunted Mansion where, like, the drop?
Oh, mm-hmm. That's a great ride.
I was in the line. I was, like, 3 people in front of me, and then I just, like, chickened out as, like, a 12-year-old. Like, no. I was like, one day I'm going to be on the elevator, and it hopefully will not Final Destination me, and I'll be okay. But I'll try.
Oh my God. Well, so were you a scared kid? Were you easily scared?
I think, like, I like to think that I wasn't. But I think I was one of those scared kids where, like, in the moment, I wouldn't be scared. Like, I wouldn't be the kid that would, like, cover their eyes or, like turn away. But I would definitely have nightmares. And I had this thing, which I still have to this day, where, like, if it's a scary movie, I have to finish it. And if I don't finish it, I'll have, like, bad dreams about it, or I'll, like, keep thinking about it. So... yeah, I definitely had that in me, whatever that means.
I also have that completionist. Like, I don't care how scared I am, I have to know how it ends. Like, even if it's a bad movie, I have to finish. At this point now, I have to finish it. Because I need to know. I just need the closure. I'm a completionist, but whatever. Anyway.
So, you kind of said that you didn't watch a lot of horror movies at your house, but did you have favorites that you ended up managing to sneak in over that young childhood time frame?
Yeah, I feel like a lot of them are pretty predictable because I was born in 89, so like obviously Scream 1 and 2, because it's like right around that cusp of like I was about a preteen when it came out to like DVDs, or at that point VHS, so I could like watch it. Definitely Blair Witch Project. And then definitely Jurassic Park. Like, I remember being really terrified at that Jello scene. And I think, again, I don't know. It, like, activates something with that Jaws, like, memory of just, like, this, like, big thing coming. But it's, like, not here yet, but you know it's coming. Like, those are definitely some standout moments, I think.
Another Spielberg movie.
Yes, yeah.
He knows how to scare us and knows how to warm. Tender but scary.
Tender but scary.
Yeah, that's really what the through line is.
Wait, that's such a good t-shirt. Should we make shirts, Cass, you make it with us, that say tender but scary, and that can both apply to the vibe that you like and the vibe that you give off. Like,
I'm pretty tender and scary. I appreciate that. Goals, man. Goals.
But so, like, how did your horror love grow? Like, as a kid, did you start watching more movies? Did you read things? Like, how did that kind of progression start happening as you grew up into teenage and adulthood?
Yeah, it was definitely, I think, more from a reading standpoint for a long time. I don't know if you remember this, but like, or if your high school did this, or if it was just a weird, like, Rhode Island thing, which there are a lot of. But we had this, like, system where it was, like, you had to, like, log what books you read, but then you also had to take this like comprehension test on the computer, and certain books are worth more points than the others. So if they were larger books, they'd be worth more. Okay, it's so weird. But
no, we got pizzas.
I just got like a sticker for reading Like, I was like, we had reading time, and I would read all of like the R.L. Stein creepy shit and get stickers for reading big chapter books about murder.
Personal pan pizzas from Pizza Hut.
That sounds way more amazing than us like competing for the most points of reading.
That's
but like
terrible. Like, pitting kids against each other, like day one, just like
And
fight for the points, kids.
Exactly, and it was like posted too, so you could see, and like I think it like boosted your grade. Yeah, so I'm sure this also applies to like why like I am a recovering perfectionist and proudly recovering. But yeah, like, I would go after the books that were like. I got tired very quickly of the like reading the biggest books to get the most points because you could just read all the Harry Potter books and just like test, and then you'd be like done for the semester. So I would love to find like Bruce Coville and like Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, like Caroline B. Cooney, Stephen King, Lois Duncan, like the books that like it was always like tucked away in like the library corner, and there'd be some sort of image of something like a phone hanging and like a black background and just like creepy text. Like I would just gobble those up. And I think it wasn't until like college when I made friends with like my first experience with like horror film bros were like, no joke, they thought it was totally cool to be like sit down and be like, you need to watch these movies. Thankfully they had good taste, but it was also a weird experience of just being like, okay, what are we watching tonight? Thankfully it was like movies like Pontypool or like Wreck or like High Tension.
They weren't
like
weird, like gross.
No, it was just they were just like when people think of film Twitter, they weren't like how to say this. They were just like very assured of their opinion and like acted as if they had seen everything according to mankind. But they did have really good taste. So I'm thankful for them because I don't actually think I really understood how much like international indie horror was out there until that point. And that was also right when like Netflix just started to transition from like just DVDs to streaming, and like streamers started to come up, so things were more like available. I think that just opened a huge doorway. And to this day, I still rather like indie international horror. So I am thankful for them, despite it being a little weird, a little mansplaining.
Yeah. By the way, rip DVDs from Netflix.
Oh, Netflix DVD was how I watched Human Centipede and Antichrist and all these weird ass movies that like you couldn't find anywhere else, and I could just get them. It was always my favorite sharing the DVD queue with my family because I would oust the kids movies for my younger brother, like my little brother, for like Human Centipede, and my mom would be like, "What the fuck is wrong with you?" I'm like, "Leave me alone." I'd become my personal DVD player in my room in the dark, watching like fucked up movies, Antichrist. I should not have watched the Antichrist at the age of 15, but anyway.
Oh my god.
That's way too
I didn't get it. I was like,
I've actually never seen it, but oh my god.
Well,
do you need to?
The thing that bothered me the most was that it was just like too artsy. And now I appreciate it. I still don't like that movie, but that's a whole other podcast. But it was like, I was like, why are these long takes, these weird slow-mo things happening? I was just very confused. But anyway.
Oh, I love the remembering of the DVD player. That just like opened up like a whole nostalgia box in my brain of like the portable DVD players. They would take them on like bus rides and stuff. And keep them like treasure. Ugh, what a time.
There was that, and like I think my cousins still have it. Like that sucker has seen a lot, and it has gone on many a trip, and it has helped me watch many an inappropriate movie for my age. So shout out to the portable. Hey, your parents can't look at the history, so
it's true.
That is true.
You don't need Wi-Fi.
That is true.
Don't need Wi-Fi. Exactly.
No parental controls there.
Oh my god.
Sneak that DVD.
Well, let's take a quick commercial break, and when we come back, Cass, we're gonna dive into your Scarred for Life pick. And we're back! Cass, what movie did you bring with you today for us to talk about?
Urban legend.
Urban legend. Okay, everybody. So, for the uninitiated, in urban legend, a university is beset by a rash of gruesome murders that resemble old urban legends. When her friend Michelle is killed by someone hiding in her car, Natalie begins to notice the pattern. Her suspicions grow stronger when her own roommate is strangled to death. Soon the quiet college campus is transformed into hunting grounds for a maniac, and Natalie struggles to find the killer and stop the bloodshed before she becomes the next victim.
Dun dun dun.
Bum, bum, bum. Yes!
Wow.
Love it. Synergy. Is that what they say?
Beautiful.
We've reached synchronicity or whatever. Okay, take us back. I want to know how old you were. How did you see this movie? Why is this your Scarred for Life pick? Give us the deets.
Okay, so this was definitely, I remember seeing it in clips before I actually saw the full-length thing, because this was once again, when like Primetime Network was a thing, so you could just like walk into a movie not knowing what was happening. And I remember the scene I saw out of context was the dog scene. So definitely like all the warnings, anyone listening, if you haven't seen this movie, about dog deaths. And at the time I had like a West Highland Terrier, which is like a white fluffy dog. And all I saw was, I was like maybe probably within the same range of like maybe 13, like junior high-esque. And all I saw was like this dog getting a microwave. But the thing is like, it happens off screen. Like you see the gory like door open and it looks fuzzy. So you can you can connect the dots. But like in my head, I remembered like the dog being in the microwave. And I was just like terrified of that. And also terrified that it could happen to my dog. And that like, again, same generation, and like a year after Scream 2 came out, this movie came out. So it was still that whole like scary thing of like the killer is someone you know. And I was just like, what if someone goes into my house and like, is my dog safe? Like I would like unplug the microwave.
Oh no. Oh no.
I was like, no, we can't. You never know. And it's like, how is this like, God, like what, 5-inch tall dog gonna get on the counter? But I was like, gotta be safe. So yeah, that's a biggie from this movie that stuck with me.
And you saw that like out of context.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So then did you see the scene right after it when he gets fucking murdered with bleach?
I didn't see that scene for a while. I think I didn't see the full like... Yes.
Okay, I was scared, like, because right after is another traumatizing death.
I didn't know. Yes, I was surprised in the rewatch, like how actually graphic it was. I mean, I also think I was someone that saw the movie Heathers too young, but at least that was kind of funny, and I understood it was funny, so I was like, ha ha ha. Fucked up looking. But yeah, I don't think I saw the full movie until I was probably like 16 or something. So it took a while because I was just so afraid of that because all I could think of was like the dead dog. Because like they killed a dog and it's like not even at the end of the movie. How much worse does it get?
So when you saw it at 16 or whenever, what were your thoughts then, seeing the whole movie?
I think I, at the time, really, really, really liked it. And I remember being really hyped for the sequel, Final Cut, which I definitely like saw and I was very excited for like when it came out. I think it's funny because I think there are a lot of smart things that totally went over my head. And I feel like the one thing I'm really excited to talk about in this movie is like they absolutely love to go into like Scream. We love her. She's great. We understand. And they're all little Easter eggs, right? To be like, oh, did you see Wes Craven in that Freddy suit? But I feel like there's a lot of really fun and playful nods in this movie that like I definitely did not catch back then. But I was just like, oh my God, we're opening with a Candyman homage led by Freddy Krueger. Like, let's take a beat. Like there's so many smart things that this film did too that like I cannot wait to celebrate.
I mean, like, we got Brad Dourif and, like, the opening in the cold open. Like, the cold open alone is just, like, iconic. I mean, I was thinking about this today and how much I just want to, like, do a deep dive into the best cold opens in horror. Because, like, obviously Scream has, like, the iconic cold open. But this one is just, like, I loved this one. You have Turn Around playing as she's driving in the rain to the gas station. Brad Dourif appears and then never appears again in the movie as the gas station attendant. Like, I was like, oh, okay, he's not coming back? Perfect. Yeah. There's an axe murderer in the backseat, and Turn Around is playing as she's, like, getting axed in the head. It's just, like...
It's
such
so
an
self-aware.
incredible, like, playful. It's so playful, but also so scary. And I think that's what's so impressive to me about, like, this movie. And so, full disclosure, this was my first time ever seeing Urban Legend, and I'm very sorry that it took me this long to see it, because I loved it. Because it is very Scream-esque, and it's meta in such a different way, but I really love that, because it's a little bit more... Subtle seems like the wrong word here, but, like, it's not openly being like, this is what horror movies do, and it's happening here. Like, this is more a little bit more meta in terms of, like, the narratives and the tropes that we are aware of and how they play out. Yes. But it's still got that meta feeling to it. And again, like you said, we've got Brad Dourif in the opening scene who voices Chucky, and then isn't one of the characters named Michelle Mancini, apparently?
Yes. Yeah, Mancini. Like, there's Charles Breen, was a director. Like, there's so much of that like goes under the radar that I didn't realize until this rewatch. Yeah. So many little homages.
Yeah, especially like to homage. The way I like jumped with glee when Joshua Jackson is in the car and I Don't Want to Wait comes on, and he's like, oh, fuck this song. And I was just like, come on.
Okay. Watching this movie this time, I had two realizations of jokes that would show up in Scary Movie and Scary Movie 2. In Scary Movie, when Dawson climbs in through the window, obviously, he climbs, I get that.
Oh, yeah.
But also the idea that, like, Pacey, I always call him Pacey. I've never seen
Pacey
Dawson's
forever.
Creek ever, but I know,
Really?
but I always just refer to him as Pacey. Yeah, I always have. One of my friends, my bestie, Nikki, loved Dawson's Creek. And so, like, I just always think Pacey. And the fact that Pacey's been in a number of horror movies in this era, and then you have like Dawson climbing through, the window in Scary Movie, but then also in Scary Movie 2, when Anna Faris is driving in her car and she's singing horribly to that one song, it's like the opening of this movie where she is butchering.
Oh, I love that.
I think it's Total Eclipse of the Heart, right?
Yeah. She's like, Total Heart. Look, I've never seen a more realistic representation of how I sing in the car a lot of the things.
Same.
So I was like, I respect the honesty of, like, you don't know all the fucking words, but you still belt your heart.
Yeah, this last week, I've been like trying to find music. I'm in a rut, and so I'm like trying to find something. And so I was listening to Shakira, who I love, and like I'm listening to some of her old music, and like I don't know what she is saying in these, but I am just shouting it out loud, and I'm like butchering it just as bad as like it's this that resonated with me on this watch.
It's so good.
Perfect
Also,
opening.
like, I love that. I can get into it later, but that like Joshua Jackson, who is like has been in Dawson's Creek and has been in like Kevin Williamson, obviously like Scream 2, also gets the Casey death. Basically, like we don't really see him get gutted, but he does get hung from a tree like Casey. So I'm just like,
he's got that fucking hair,
and he's got that
blonde hair,
that blonde hair.
Oh, it was so good. Like, I mean, this is the most beautiful like '90s movie without being like too '90s, but it's very '90s. You know what I mean? Like the bleach blonde hair. And all like the outfits and the goth roommate painting half of the room, but I have a lot to say about the goth roommate. Don't you worry, because I was like,
to get there.
Okay, good. Because
I just have a lot of feelings about this movie, and they're all pretty positive. But since we're on the cast, I mean, also Jared Leto with short hair, and like when he was acting and not being a scary weirdo.
Do you think he went method on this? When did he start being method? Do you think was he a dick on this too?
I can only
hope. Even gone method on this, besides becoming like writer for a college newspaper.
My God.
The clips about journalism in this are so funny, though. He's like, where are we going to get all the body of work for somebody to get jobs? And they're like, you're just going to write about Martha Stewart when you graduate from college. And I'm like, I don't like that you're attacking me like this.
Yes. Also, that you'd make more money doing that than like getting a Pulitzer.
Yeah, that is also the unfortunate truth of the matter there.
Yeah, Jared Leto. I mean, we know problematic. I interviewed him once, and I swear to God, like it was like talking to a stone. Like it was like
really?
There was like no life behind his eyes, and I was just like, "Are you okay?" And he was just like, "Yeah," and he just looked like a corpse that was just like being marionetted. Like it was so rough.
What were you interviewing him for? Like what era was this?
This was like a couple years ago. It was for honestly, it might have been last year. It was for We Crashed, which is an Apple TV show about the WeWork founders.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I was trying to figure out like which era of him. Okay, so a more recent
it's like cult era of Leto. Oh. Yeah. But like what's really weird is like I feel like the reason why I think like maybe not method, but maybe he just wasn't trying was the way he was like in this movie when he's like having the blank stares, just kind of like so chill. It's like kind of like how he was like in that one like 5-minute junket interview. I'm like, I wonder if he was just coasting. Just like I'm here.
Always just like kind of maybe a little high and just like not quite all there, and it's just like I'm here to collect a check and look kind of hot. And you're like, I mean, I guess, you know what? Good for you. Like,
I had such a crush on him in this movie when I was.
Look, I love that.
I really did.
If I had seen this when I was younger, I would have. He's like cute, like newspaper. Like, if that's exactly the type, I would have been huge on.
That's fair.
And, ugh. But then Rebecca Gayheart is incredible, as we'll talk about. And then Tara Reid as our, like, sexy Cosmo reading radio show host. I would listen to her having character having a radio show.
When she almost fillets the microphone,
oh my god,
young Terry was like,
energy.
Sexual awakening right there.
It's so good. I totally forgot she was in it. And then I love that we hear her voice before we see her. Because, like, again, Nostalgia Box opened up where I was just like, oh my god, she's here! And I got so excited.
Like, and then she's like, oh, you swallowed a frat boy protein shake. And I was like, it's the most disgusting thing I've ever heard in my entire life.
Oh, she's so good though.
I know that she's like the
Which
bimbo
is
character.
another urban legend, by the way.
Yes.
Oh yeah, of course, exactly. Oh yeah. I want a movie like Urban Legend, but she's the final girl. I just love her. But I always love the bimbo coded characters, because bimbo coded characters are the best. And I know they used to always have such bad treatment, but we're getting the resurgence of the bimbo now, and I'm very excited about it. And like looking at bimbos is not just like the stereotype, and I love just watching this now. I'm like, I love her vibe, because she is smart. Like, she's never necessarily like a dumb blonde. Like, she's a successful radio host. She knows that guys are like annoying and gross, and
she gives safe sex advice too.
Yes, she does. I love her so much. And
it's
then
like, just because it's not going in your vagina doesn't mean you can't get problems from it. Like, it's like she is spitting those truths that young people needed to hear.
I didn't realize was Danielle Harris the roommate?
Yeah. Danielle Harris is in this.
I was trying to figure who that was. Danielle Harris was the roommate. Julian Richings is credited on IMDb as weird janitor, which is my favorite. Because he is a really good weird janitor. And then Robert Englund is the fucking folklore professor. Yes. And then John Neville, who is in X-Files and a lot of stuff, is the dean. Like, it's just like so stacked with people in this movie. It's kind of wild. And then Loretta Devine, I'm so sorry. I cannot, because Reese Wilson is the best character in this movie.
So good.
There's a reason why she's in the sequel, too. Oh, no. Let's not stop on the cast, because Alicia Witt, who plays Wet Blanket Natalie, was also in Dune.
Oh,
David Lynch's
really?
Dune. She was Paul Atreides' sister in Dune.
No shit. Was she really?
Uh-huh.
Wow. This is a wildly stacked cast of people. She is not, for a movie that I really have enjoyed, she is a very boring final girl. She's so sorry to say that. I'm just bringing that up now. We're just going to start it off strong with opinion. She's a wet blanket. She really is.
People give Julie James a lot of shit, but like, come on. Where were you doing that? Like, what were you doing?
like nothing. Like, nothing. Like, the best part of this whole movie is when she turns the light on, and her roommate's getting railed. And she just turns the light back off and then puts on sad 90s emo girl music and, like, rolls over to her side, and it, like, fades into them driving or something. And I was like, what is this? Just the funniest shit with her roommate getting railed in the dark goth girl versus this, like, human vanilla ice cream cone. Sweet, but just like...
But like low fat. It's like low fat vanilla.
Yeah, the churned one. Yes. And like with like Splenda instead of like actual sugar.
Oh, God.
The note that I took when I was writing about this last night was milk toast, because she just is so milk toast.
She is. She really is the...
But... I do want to. Okay, I want to like hang, because we're jumping all over the place. I want to hang with.
I'm sorry.
No, there's a lot. This movie is just So I was really excited that you brought this, because like I think this movie is a lot of fun. And watching it last night, it's been a long time since I had seen it, and I'll talk a little bit about when I first saw it eventually. But last night when I was watching it, I was like, I just kept making exclamation points. I was like, oh my god, Brad Dourif! Oh my god, Robert Englund! Because I didn't remember that. This cast is stacked, and there's so many little things that it's easy to ping pong around. But when I was watching this movie, I did relate to poor Natalie when she goes into her room with the roommate, because Mary Beth, I don't know if you've heard this story before about like my college experience with my roommate. I can't remember.
I don't actually know if I have.
I think we talked a little bit about college before, but I can't remember if I've shared this particular story on the podcast or not.
Oh my god, I'm so excited.
I had a roommate for the very... so I was in a dorm for my freshman year, and then I moved back home because it was too expensive, and a lot of other shit. So, like, my freshman year, the first half of the year, well, I was placed in a jock dorm. So like it's little me, overweight, music person, theater, closeted gay around like the most testosterone filled jocks that would just walk around completely shirtless in their just in boxers with things just swinging around like
In some ways it was a gift. In some ways it was a curse.
God tested you. He put you through the gay ringer like nobody's business. That God gives his toughest battles to his strongest soldiers, Terry. And congratulations, you are gay captain.
Oh, MVP Terry.
Woo, woo. So the guy across the hall was like a fucking Adonis, and like he just would show his body like all the time, and I was like, he would just stand in the doorway, arm open, like giving pit for the gays, catnip. I'm sorry, just like standing there, and I'm like,
cat pit.
I'm trying to like act straight, but I'm also like staring, right? You know, and. So my roommate was also a jock, and at one point, halfway through the semester, he gets a girlfriend.
Oh.
All of a sudden, she's staying over. I want to point this out. We had bunk beds.
Oh, no.
Oh, no.
Were you the bottom bunk, Terry?
I was the bottom bunk. And I will never forget the night I woke up, and my bed was fucking shaking.
Oh,
and
bunk beds?
Bunk beds.
For college students?
Yes.
That makes me laugh. You fucking on the top bunk?
Cheap bunk beds. Like, they were probably handmade. Like, it looked like 2x4. Like, this was like...
cork board. Like, just
yes,
shitty. Cork board.
Like, it would shake on the best days. And I woke up at 2 a.m. thinking that, because I grew up in Alaska where there were earthquakes. There's no earthquakes in Iowa where I was. I literally thought an earthquake was happening. I was like, what is happening? The entire fucking bed is shaking. And then all of a sudden I hear above me, she was panting like a dog. I'm sorry, but that is what was happening. And at that moment,
Terry realized, further cemented, not straight as hell. Not straight as hell.
Entire thing shaking. I'm like, what do I do when I finally realized what was happening? It's like, what do I do? Do I get up? Do I shout earthquake? Do I leave the room? What do I do? So I basically pulled a Natalie and curled on my side and just like, I guess I'm part of this now.
Yeah, that's like kind of what you have to do, which is awful.
It always sucks to be like cuckold when you did not ask for it.
No, like, come on, y'all. Like, just wait till he's gone and put a sock on the door. I mean, Jesus,
that's not cool. Not cool.
I mean, he wasn't even that attractive either. He gave me George W. Bush vibes.
Ooh, icky. Absolutely disgusting.
Yeah.
Back to Urban Legend, though.
Yeah. Sorry for that derailing, but it's just like, I was thinking about that. I was like, Natalie?
Derailing.
I was like, this is the one time where I'm going to relate to Natalie, because otherwise, she is the worst part of this movie. Sorry, Alicia Witt, but that character is not it.
Nope.
They had such a good time writing everyone around her, and they're like, oh shit, we gotta write the final girl. And they were like,
whoops.
Oopsie. And it's like, well, fine. I'll give you a pass for everyone else, but I'm watching you.
Yeah.
But I love this movie because it uses urban legends as its main conceit, because I am obsessed with urban legends. I have always loved them since I was young. I know that, Cass, you have a ton, but I also have a ton, because I feel like the East Coast especially is like just creepy. But going to a really old college and going to this creepy summer camp, I just like love urban legends, and it was so cool to see how this movie interprets urban legends into kills, which I think is so smart and terrifying when you're like, oh, it is, and that like at the end when we come to like full circle. But especially when they're talking about these urban legends in the class with Robert Englund's character, the professor, and about like, I heard this from this of a friend. And I'm curious, Cass, if you have any urban legends that you grew up with, or there's anything like that you can tell us a little bit about.
I have so many. But to be fair, and like let everyone have their urban legend chat, I will say one to start. And it's this like campfire tale that supposedly started in like Cumberland, Rhode Island. that is possibly the inspiration for Wes Craven's Nightmare on Elm Street, which is Freddy Krueger.
Ooh.
So there's this legend that when you go camping out in Cumberland, and Cumberland is like a bit more like the woodsy area. It's kind of like, a lot of Rhode Island is weird because it's an old, for the most part, the state was like a mill town and also had a bunch of farmland. And then as like industry moved in, like the farmland obviously got pushed out further and further. So like Cumberland now is kind of more gritty, but it used to be a bit more like farmlandy. And so there's this legend that a bunch of kids accidentally or purposefully were acting up and burned down this man's house with his entire family inside, but the man wasn't inside. So there's this legend that if you go onto that land, he'll get you, and that he's been so like old and haunted in the woods for so long that his nails have just grown into like razor blades and so sharp.
Oh.
And that, yeah, so if you're a kid at night and you're camping, you have to be very quiet because if he hears you, he will kill you. And he just lives off revenge. So that was like a big one. I think it's called Fingernails Freddy. Which,
Ew,
like,
what the fuck?
Also, weird choice of names. I'm glad we just took the Freddy Krueger and took the fingers nails.
Fingernails Freddy is like terrifying and like gross. Oh my god. Oh my god.
Yeah, isn't that wild?
Wow.
Deep breath, everybody.
That's amazing. That is an amazing urban legend.
Holy shit.
Yeah, I think the only one that there's a bunch of other ones. There's one about the Providence Biltmore Hotel. There's also like the house that was based, well, the Power and Family from The Conjuring. I hate the Conjuring series. I will not. This is not the time or place for it. I hate the Warrens so much. Like, they're grifters. I will.
Yes, we support. We understand. Yes,
but the actual house, supposedly that was haunted, is in Harrisville, Rhode Island. So there's also like feelings of that house still being haunted, and there's like Mercy Brown the vampire, who is like,
oh yeah,
that's a good
Rhode
one.
Island is so fucking scary.
Yes,
Rhode Island is like this big, and it is full of terror.
Yes.
It is a fucking little square, and it is full of ghosts and demons.
Ghost demons, and there's I forget where in Gansett, but there's a place where apparently the devil stepped on, and there's like a footprint that's supposed to look like a hoof, and then also like a foot. It's like, I mean, yeah, I guess that's what we got for breaking away from Massachusetts. We were like the rebel state back in the day with Roger Williams. He's like, well, this is the outlaw land, so we're known for like ghosts, like witches, vampire, and like the mob. That's like really what we're known for.
One of these is not like the other ones. Mercy Brown. It's so wild to me because I literally was reading Paul Bear's Club last year, and that is all about Mercy Brown.
Oh.
I was like, wow. I didn't know there was a real thing. I just thought it was something he made up, Paul Tremblay made up for the book, but that's
Mercy
wild.
Brown.
But sorry, go ahead. What were you going to say?
Well, to honor Mercy Brown, so like it was based on a person that had tuberculosis, and I guess when they like exhumed the body, the nails kept growing and the hair kept growing, as like, happens. But back then they didn't know it any better, so they burned her heart. And they went through this whole thing where we had like a vampire panic. But the one funny urban legend I wanted to tell you was about the Providence Biltmore Hotel, because it does involve mobsters and ghosts.
Beautiful.
So like in the Mary Beth just looked up like, so it was built in like the Biltmore Hotel was built in like the 1920s, supposedly by Satanists. Again, this is like filtered through the lens of like satanic panic stuff too. And they believed that like on the top of the hotel they were doing like chicken sacrifices and whatnot, and debauchery abounded. When in reality what it was a hotel built around Prohibition time periods, and this is where you would go to like skirt those laws. So you could like have like exotic dances and like you could gamble there, you could drink there, get the hooch. Surprising no one, the mob was also a presence there, because that's where you go to do business. So there was a lot of like supposed murders from the mob there, and actual people like did die there. And the legend there is that like if you go to the Providence Biltmore Hotel, I don't know if it's still in operation because it went through some reconstruction, but there was this glass elevator, and like if you got on the elevator and you asked the concierge person to like go to the top floor, I believe, the concierge is supposed to like either take you to a haunted, like, how these legends get kind of skewed, either takes you to like a haunted floor, or like kind of more like a J-horror like thing where the concierge becomes like a ghost and like kills you. Yeah, that was a fun sidebar, but please go on. I could ramble for days.
Wow.
The only one that like I think is a big one in Omaha where I live is there's this place called Hummel Park, and it's like a little bit, secluded, a little like there's dense woods around it, kind of creepy. People have found dead bodies there. They probably were dumped there, is what people say, but like it has created like an entire mythos around it that has like a variety of different spooky things that are pretty typical. Like they say there's a group of albino cannibals that live in the woods around Hummel Park, like is one of them. And I think there's
Hell yeah.
that.
Well, everyone has an albino cannibal. I have
Yes.
one, like we have one in Maryland too. I'm like, what the fuck? Why does everyone have this very specific
It's
group
so
of people?
specific. It's so blah blah blah, so specific. And then there's also like it has a stairway that has like I think 188 stairs, but if you go up and down it, you're gonna and you count them, it's different stairs, like different numbers.
Oh, wow.
Weird things like that. So like that is like probably the big one. Here, there's, I mean, a little bit outside in Iowa, across the border from me, there's the Villisca house murders. There's a house where a family was butchered, and it's now apparently like haunted and stuff. So there's a lot of that kind of stuff. But Hummel Park is pretty much, other than the stuff that I think everyone gets, like the haunted house where like you pay $50 and you have to go up each floor and it gets more vicious as you go up. And I'm like, where is this? But everyone seems to know about it. They have a friend of a friend who has gone through it and couldn't make it past third floor or whatever. Like just so many of those. And then of course like the gang initiation thing that is in this movie, like just a lot of that kind of stuff. But Hummel Park is the big one that I think is known in Omaha. What about you, Mary Beth? I think we talked about this a little bit with Candyman, actually.
Yeah. So we had this was like really specific to my neighborhood because it's Maryland. There was an old plantation behind our middle school in the woods. Love that for us, but it was like in the woods, and people would go there and like dare each other to go inside. And I was always too chicken shit to go inside. I always got bad vibes from the place. That could have been my anxiety or I don't know what, but I just like never wanted to try it. Like I was like, I know what happens in the off chance that whatever that I've seen in movies is real. I know what happens to me if I go in there, and I'm not gonna do it. But everyone had a story of like finding a dead body down there, like all these intricate stories about like finding dead bodies and like there's ghosts there. And I was just like, I'm not fucking with that. Are you kidding me? Absolutely not. So that was like the house behind our school. But Maryland had a cryptid called the Goat Man.
Oh.
So the Goat Man is shockingly half goat, half man.
What?
It's like weird. And very specifically, he is known for being in like a county. It's called Prince George's County, and it's right next to where I live. And it's like someone wrote a paper about it in the 70s at University of Maryland, and it's like super unclear where it comes from. But like there was in the 50s, there were like reports of weird dog deaths and like graffiti that said Goat Man was here. And there's also this like legend that he has like in a city called Bowie, he has like a ramshackled little shack. Like if you go there at a certain time, you'll find him. But if you find him, he'll chase you off with an axe. So he's an axe wielding goat man, and he is like very specifically a Maryland thing. And my dad's best friend, one of his best friends, his nickname is Goat Man. So I was always like, they would always threaten that the Goat Man would come after me, because I knew that this Goat Man, who was the nicest person and is like the least terrifying person. It's so funny that his nickname is Goat Man because like there's no reason for it. Like he is literally the nicest person. Yeah, but that was a really big one, and I always like sought out all that shit because I loved ghosts. I loved urban legends. I wanted to know. It's what scared the shit out of me, but I just like loved knowing about all the weird shit you could find in the world. Like I was just like. I think I was so fascinated with the idea of things being different from like what we know. And I was like, it was exciting to think about, like, even though it was terrifying, it was also kind of thrilling to think about like possibilities that we don't know about yet. I love that. I still do, but like, I just loved that so much as a kid. Like if you've ever read the weird US books, those books that are like, it's like a series. They did a couple for states, but it's like, basically a collection of urban legends, and I carried that around like my Bible. I would like read it all the time. It was my favorite book. I brought it with me everywhere. I would take notes in it, and I even wrote them like an entry for something for Maryland, and I got in their weird Maryland book when I was like 13, writing about all the haunted, scary stories at my Girl Scout summer camp I went to, and they published it, and it was like I was like, I've made it as a person. I was published in this book.
Oh.
I have 2 pages. Felt so cool. But I love urban legend. I love, so obvious. Me sharing just how much I loved urban legends and like creepy cool shit like that.
So you kind of were like, not in personality, but like Natalie with finding the Encyclopedia of Urban Legends. Yes. You had your own version of that you carried around like the Bible.
But like no shit, I really did. And like that's why I was so excited to watch this movie, because I did see a little bit of me in her, except, you know, obviously I wasn't running from a murderer, but it was just like looking into all the stories and being so fascinated, and like, and I really identified with like the part they're in the classroom where they're talking about urban legends, and he's like, everyone's heard it, it's not real, but everyone else is like, but what if it is? Like, that is my thing. I'm like, I'll never fuck with it. Like, you know, the whole like put the baby powder on your bumper and you'll see little hands on it if you like go in neutral. Have you ever heard of that before?
No.
Oh fuck. Okay, maybe that's a Maryland thing. So basically there are hills in Maryland where you can go and put your car. You're supposed to put flour or baby powder in your bumper, and then you put your car in neutral and it'll start moving uphill, and if you come out there's going to be little handprints in the flour. Supposedly. I've never tried it, and I never fucking will, because
What? We should try it.
No, are you fucking kidding me? Like, on the off chance that shit is real? And, like,
also, if it's not real, you're gonna trash your car. It's gonna go down that hill.
Like, yeah. And, like, there's apparently, like, some scientific explanation about, I don't know. I don't care about that. Because I'm like, no, I don't give a shit if it's, I don't need to know that. Like, I know it's probably not real, but you don't need to explain it to me. But yeah. Anyway, like, the entire scene where he's like, come on, drink the Pepsi with the Pop Rocks in your mouth. And I would 100% be her. I'd be like, no. Like, someone else
have you guys ever done that?
Yes, I have.
Me too.
I wouldn't now. I feel like I'm not as chaotic now in my like mid 30s. But yeah, 100% as a teen. Have you done Bloody Mary? Have you done that?
No.
Nope. Yeah.
Okay. Nope. I told you I will not fuck with this stuff. Like I don't, even if it's like I'm like 99% sure it's not real, but on the off chance that I fucking find out, I don't want to know that. Like, I'm just gonna leave that not to chance.
As we talked about in the Candyman episode, I am the fucker that will say Candyman in the mirror with my friends and try to terrify them. That was me.
You're such a dick.
That was me. Yes, I was a chaotic teen.
Just opening up.
I don't believe in any of that shit. That's the thing. It's like I don't believe in it. It's fun, but I don't believe in any of it.
But does it believe in you, Terry? What if it believes in you? That's the thing. I was a Terry. I'm now a Mary Beth. I'm like, but maybe.
Look.
Listen, I was wanting to host a seance online. Like, I wanted to do a host thing.
I can't do that.
I was looking into it to see if I could find someone like online to do it, because I think it's silly. I am definitely going to fuck around and find out one of these days.
The devil isn't silly. They taught me that in Sunday school when I grew up Catholic.
Oh boy.
You know the experience, Cass.
Yes. The deep sigh of recognition.
The deep sigh of trauma, recognizing trauma. Anyway, back to the movie.
So there's a line in this movie that cracks me up, and it's because it's stealing pretty much from Scream. Because there's a point where Natalie is like, it's like someone out there is taking all of these stories and making them a reality, which is pretty much the tagline on the Scream poster about like someone's taking their love of scary movies one step too far or whatever. It's like, I'm like, this is literally like, you can see some of the things that are definitely influenced by Scream being such a popular force of nature back like 2 years before this came out, I think. 96, I think. Is that when it came out?
It is really funny seeing how these movies, like, so many movies are trying to ape off Scream's success, and I think this is definitely one of the more successful ones, but like, it definitely is like, so much a studio is like, we have to make our Scream, and they're like, go, go, go. And again, I think they hit a really cool balance, because they did that meta stuff, but they didn't try to do it so obviously, and doing it with the folklore that we've seen so many slasher movies like literally follow. It's kind of cool to how they chose to subvert it. It's a little less in your face, and
Yeah, especially because there's a part where, like, it has the, you know, When a Stranger Calls, Urban Legend throwback, which basically is like, it's almost like Ghostface has a cameo for a second. And you're like, oh.
Yeah.
So that's like something that I thought was cool. I also, have you, either of you seen Valentine?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I have not.
Okay, so the same director.
I don't remember
did
liking
Valentine.
it. And I don't remember liking it when I first saw it, but I definitely, I bought the Blu-ray, because of course I did. And I want to revisit it because, like, I think I was coming off of, like, the tail end of being obsessed with these teen movies, and I think I was probably just annoyed at that point. So I want to, like, rewatch it and revisit it with, like, fresh eyes, because I really like this movie. And as you said, Jamie Blanks did that one as well. I'm really sad that he doesn't do more movies.
I know,
as a director.
Like he's because I didn't know this until I looked it up for the podcast, but he's mostly a film composer. And then what was also why where it like fell down the rabbit hole is like Christopher Young, who did the score for this, did like Hellraiser 1, 2, Sinister, Drag Me to Hell. I was like, what?
Terry and I were texting like, Jesus Christ, Christopher Young has scored every goddamn movie on this planet. Like,
there are certain things that come up on this podcast all the time: Jaws, Hereditary, and Christopher Young scores.
Jesus.
Like, literally, those three things come up all the time, and I'm always turning around going, ooh, this score is really good. Who did it? And I look and I'm like, fucking Christopher Young again. He scored, like, all the movies, it feels like, of my childhood. We just, like, literally, what movie did we just talk about? Was it Copycat? Did he do Copycat?
Oh, he did Copycat, too, yeah.
He did Copycat.
We just talked about Copycat, and he did the
Copycat.
score there, and I'm just like, this fucker, he's so good.
I know, it's insane. But yeah, I agree that I wish that, like, Jamie Blanks did something more, because I think, like, I haven't rewatched Valentine in a while, so, like, do not quote me on this, but I think that movie and then Urban Legend, when it came out, both were, like, pretty panned, and for a long time, I think, fall into that category is, like, when everyone, like, trash talks the 90s of having no good horror, but I think that they both kind of hold up a lot better than anyone gave them credit for.
Yeah, because I was telling Terry, I was like, is it 24% on Rotten Tomatoes? That seems insane to me that this has only a 24%. But again, like, in that era, people didn't appreciate that stuff, and now we have such, like, a greater appreciation of, like, that, of the slasher and what that was, kind of how that functioned in, like, the greater scheme of things.
I will say that I think one of the reasons, because we keep talking about how this is one of the more successful, I mean, I hate to use the word Scream clone, but like, there's like a lot of movies that come out after Scream that are capitalizing on a hot young cast of people that are either up and coming or are established. I think the reason why this movie works, and I didn't realize it until this watch when I was looking up who wrote it, but it was written by a gay man.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
It's Ugly Betty,
written
right?
by the guy that did Ugly Betty.
Yes.
Oh, shit, are you serious?
Yeah.
Yes!
Yeah, Ugly Betty. I was like, of course. That's why the humor works better than the horror sometimes in this movie. but yes, the gay men save horror.
Yeah, and I was really sad to find out that he passed away in 2020.
Oh, I didn't know that.
That's so
this
sad.
makes me feel better that we're honoring him now by talking about this movie, because I did not know that.
Silvio Horta. Well, and it's like, I think that people talk a lot about, like, queer horror, and while a lot of queer men weren't writing explicitly queer horror, there were a lot of queer men writing horror. I said those words a lot, but it's just like, queer men and queer people, and I mean, we all know this, I'm preaching to the choir at this point, but, like, it's just really cool how queer people have shaped the genre in ways that, like, people don't really think about or understand. And why a lot of these movies are so successful in terms of, like, understanding humor and having, like, a different kind of not as patriarchal perspective, but are still more listened to than women. Like, it's just really weird. And I hadn't thought about it a lot until now, so I'm kind of word vomiting, but it's a really fascinating thing. Yeah,
the respect of women in the horror genre, almost I feel like 90% of the time, it's because a gay man wrote the script. Like, I think about how we're gonna get to the ending when we get to it, but I think a lot about how the ending in this movie reminds me so much of the magnificent Laurie Metcalf in Scream 2. Love her so much. But, like, again, that's a scene where, like, a character is so unhinged, like, is definitely campy, but it's, like, eating up the scenery. But at the same time, like, you're fascinated by how it's written and being directed, where, like, it just feels done in a respectful way and not done in, like, a hysterical woman way. Like, she does get hysterical, but she still, like, has agency. I don't know, there's something meatier there.
Yeah, well, I mean, like, okay, we won't talk. It's like, it's not like a Pamela Voorhees who is just like a crazy weirdo with a knife. and there isn't like
Killer
any kind
money.
of new, like there isn't a lot of nuance or like kind of trying to show her as a person rather than just like another kind of like another monster. And these movies understand that like these villains have their own motivations and they are actually like they're people, you know, like there's more to them than just like kind of a 2D horror movie stereotype. And I think
But
like
also,
that
deadass, I think she's right. I was like, this is a motive I can understand.
good for her. This is a good for her movie, everybody.
Yeah.
It is a good for her movie. I was like, yeah, you're granted, you know, one true love in high school, you know, yada yada yada. But like, yeah, I was like, okay, I get why you're doing this. I don't get why you targeted everyone else. Like, that's one thing in slasher films that are about revenge that I don't always understand. It's like, okay, I get that this person and this other and the opening kill like fucked you up, but like, why everyone else?
Yeah, I feel like this one, this is a random sidebar, but have you seen The Glory on Netflix yet, Terry?
No, I want to so bad.
Okay.
It's on my list.
Yeah, it's not really a slasher, but it's definitely a revenge Korean TV show. But I'm like thinking of that because it's like, oh, that makes sense because like targeting police and whatnot. I feel like this one, it's like it's more effed up the way that the killer targets the surrounding people, but also like I kind of like it because it just like because she's just having fun, and I know that's bad. I just find that being fascinating.
Well, and it's just like this whole movie, she is just like, oh my goodness, I just don't know what could be happening, and I just love that, and like all of these times where she is just like, you're safe with me, and it's like, lol, no, you're not, and it's just. The way that this character is written to be so playful and, like, so diabolical, and, like, the way that she really is playing with everyone, like, she's a cat. It's, like, a very cat... It's, like, so much cat and mouse, and I love that, because she is throwing red herrings fucking everywhere, too. Like, she is really thinking it through. She
literally says, what if there's a lunatic on campus earlier on? She literally says that.
I couldn't remember the quote because there's a couple times where I was like, God damn, like this is so funny. Like she really is just like, and like the kills that she does. I mean, like the kill with the goth roommate, I love with the like, aren't you glad you didn't turn on the lights? However, just before we keep going with with all the kills, I just want to quickly say that I know this is 1998, but the portrayal of mental illness and goth girls made me want to fucking gouge my eyes out.
Oh, it's so bad.
Did you know she's a manic depressive? Well, she painted all the walls black, so I kind of had an idea. Like, what the fuck? And then she finds her fucking lithium on the floor. This is, okay, as a bitch who used to take lithium, I take personal offense to this, and I've talked about it before, where they hold up the bottle and like they fucking close up on lithium, like, oh my god, she's on lithium. How? It's like this fucking terrifying scarlet letter of like, you're a crazy bitch. And I'm like, I know what year it is. I know. But
that's the thing that continues.
It still continues.
Like, it does. It happened in a movie recently.
Just happened, yes. There's something wrong with the children did it. I'm so mad.
Yeah, true. But whenever you see someone with a bottle of prescription medicine, you're like, oh. Cinema tells you that person is dangerous. That person is fucked up. Like, that's what it says. And it's like, no, they are trying to actively...
Not the ADHD medication.
I know, right? They're actively trying to take care of their mental health. But, like, it's always portrayed as like, oh, she's popping pills.
How dare they take their prescribed medication from their doctor?
I know, right?
but then, like, the other thing is, like, what are you into? Lithium.
I was going to say!
Lithium?
Why is that your date drug?
Lithium? Just so everyone knows, lithium doesn't, like, get you fucked up. It's not like some, like, it's literally, it's not... The worst thing it does is make you have to go to get your blood work drawn to make sure you won't have blood poisoning. Like, it's really... I was just dying laughing at that, where, what are you into? Lithium?
I could not.
I love that she was on Goth for Goth. That there is enough goth people at her campus that she can be on this website trying to hook up with goth guys. Like, how many goths? Well, that's the other thing. I swear there's only like 5 people at this school because the dean seems to know everyone. He's like, oh, Damon, yeah, he's probably out. And like, I went to college and the dean, my dean knew me, but that's because I wrote an article that got posted on World Herald about how the dean was firing all the English staff. Whole other story. But anyway, mostly deans don't know the people at their school. And this person seems to personally know every single person at the school because there's only like 5 of them. They always seem to like run into each other. I'm like, how big is this school? Like running into when she runs into Sasha in the library.
Oh, yeah.
That's the other thing. The other thing that kind of does bother me about the movie is the number of like jump scares where it's like they turn around and then a friend is next to them. Like that happens so much in this movie.
A lot. That and the like some of this, I will say, like, I know we're about to go into kill scenes. Like some of the kill scenes I think are great, but I will say Sasha's death scene just drove me up the fucking wall. I was like, listen, you're in the elevator, hit the emergency exit, just get stuck in the elevator and the fireman will come. You can't trust cops, but you can trust that a fireman will come. But but yeah, it's my frustration.
No, but seriously, because I loved her like chase scene and hearing it through the radio.
I love the chase scene.
Like it's a really good chase scene, but it is funny. She's like in the elevator. I'm like, no, why are you getting in an elevator? I go like, oh wait, I don't think that's the proper choice here, but who am I to judge? It was bizarre.
But also, I know that she's a swimmer, but Brenda, that bitch can just teleport everywhere. She teleports more than like Michael Myers does in like some of the later Halloween movies. The fact that she could be like, the fact that she is chasing down Natalie in her car, runs the car off the road, and then somehow has teleported into the Stanley Hall building that is like all boarded up and has established like all of this all these candles and all of this like ambiance for this final scene. The fact that she could do that in the amount of time it took for her to walk back to campus, I was like, this bitch can teleport.
Yeah, how is she not failing all her classes? That was a lot of candles. That was like, I can't do my homework.
That was
like
a lot of
500 candles.
So, like, let's just talk about the ending, because, like, this ending is everything. It is, like, pure campy drama. Like, bitch lit it's so gay. Like, it's just, like, how
so
sapphic
gay.
do you get lighting that many fucking, and, like, not even just lighting, placing that many candles and then dramatically draping yourself on a bed? I mean, Jesus Christ. Like,
just kiss already.
She's acting. And like, it's amazing. And like her like rise and then punch. Like,
yes. It's so good.
It's so good. I unfortunately, like, I knew who the killer was, but that didn't ruin, I think, the impact at all, because it is such an iconic reveal and like moment in this fucking room of just like drama and a slideshow set up and like this whole monologue of like the fucking the slideshow with the photos as she tells the story. Like, she has really, like, she rehearsed, she blocked this. Like,
she's PowerPoint presentations. She is 6-point presentation.
She rigged the Wi-Fi in this like rundown ramshackle like tower. She's running cable cords in here, HDMI setup.
She's got a tech guy in the back. Like, it's incredible. Like, she set it up, and I feel like Laurie Metcalf, and they have this like epic ending. And I feel like so many slasher movies are just like silent dudes with knives, and these are like chewing, like you've said, Cass, like chewing the scenery and just like really giving us fucking villain, like camp villain, not just like I want to kill silently.
The curls,
the curls, the beautiful
the
head
volume.
of curls. I mean, just like, we know that we talk about Mean Girls having a hair full of secrets, but she's the OG, because this bitch has so many secrets in her curly hair, and she is lying so much, and she is having the best time. And I think that's what I love and I'm so scared about her. She's so calculated, because again, in so many slashers, it's a monster, something supernatural. Like, it's not. And with the Scream, like when Scream came along, like you said, we've talked about it, like integrates that really like that bigger scare factor. Like, there really is someone who's just actually doing this to fuck with you. Like, it's not just kill because I want to kill. It's kill because I am like a calculated, scary human being.
Yeah, and I love too, like, it's kind of one of those, like, blink if you miss it when you're watching Scream 2, but for a short moment in Scream 2, they tease, so Rebecca Gayheart is also in that movie as a sorority sister, has nothing to work with, but there's that one shot where, like, what is Sarah Michelle Gellar's character? That chase scene where she's running throughout the house. And they show a shot of like Rebecca Gayheart outside with another shorty girl, and there's like a second where you're like, "Wait, are these ladies the killers?" But then it goes, and they're not in the movie for like the rest of the runtime. They don't die. There could be in this franchise. Yeah,
Portia de Rossi, right?
Yes, Portia de Rossi. Yeah, so it's like they could still be alive and come back and scream 7, 8, 10. I don't care, please. But I was so happy.
Bring them back.
Yes, like knowing like that we got robbed of that, and then Urban Legend was like, "Hold on, we're gonna unleash Rebecca Gayheart with a role."
Bring her back. Yes. We got her. And the other drama thing is she collects all the bodies. Like, she still has Joshua Jackson's body. Like, she sets it up like a fucking fun house. Like, she is torturing this woman. And it's terrible, but incredible. Again, it's like the drama and like the camp of it and like the full-on, like full-blown villain. Like, we are no longer in silent stalker, like, form. We are in like diabolical Bond villain territory. And it's the best. Because it's just like... it's ridiculous, and we love it because it's so ridiculous, and that's why I love it, because, like, yeah, this is insane, but, like, it's incredibly well written, and it's like, ugh. Anyway, sorry. I really like this movie.
I'm surprised how much I'm, like, living for this. I didn't expect myself to, but I...
Well, and I also think that the ending scene is also kind of a smart little subversion on the Halloween, the original Halloween, where Laurie goes to the house and all of a sudden bodies are falling out of everything, and it's like he's been stacking them up. Like there's literally a scene where where Pacey is literally hanging there in like chains. I'm like, where is this? Like I thought it was a closet immediately, but there's like chains hanging down next to him.
It's like a meat
drama.
hook.
Yeah, but I'm like, this is definitely like showing homage to Halloween, but also sort of like subverting it a bit, because again, we don't have the silent Michael Myers killer. We have the manic, wide-eyed, frizzy-haired Brenda, who is just perfection. She's perfection.
But the cherry on top is Loretta Devine's Reese Wilson, who this whole movie is like ACAB, but she's incredible campus security who is like trying to make sure the kids are safe, and she just is a bad bitch, and she saves
watching
the day.
Pam Grier movies.
Oh, watching Pam Grier. She's just like, she's one of those characters that I'm like, I love, and she's like, okay, this is like the one law enforcement officer in a horror movie that I can potentially just like say, you're okay.
Because she technically, I mean, she beats the cops because the cops aren't paying attention to her.
That's right. Oh, she even says, like, I'm not a cop yet, and I've already taken a bullet.
Yeah, she's so proud of, too, which is just so fun. She just reminds me of, like, it's like the H2O LL Cool J effect, right? Where you're just like, you're a security guard, but you're actually doing your job. Like, you're actually are concerned and risking your life.
Well, and like, just to be blunt, like a black woman character in a horror movie that's like, I know it's still a small role and it's like kind of a stereotypical cop role, but at least like she can have some time to shine and isn't like shoved to like be dead. So it's like, I know that she's also just like such a cool character in that regard. And the characters in this are just like wild and so good.
Well, that's the reason she shows back up in the sequel, because she's the best part of this movie outside of Brenda,
who also shows up in a sequel.
So
it's wild. This movie is wild.
You can't keep her down. Brenda forever.
Brenda forever. Oh my god.
I'm curious because they are doing a reboot, and Colin Minihan is directing it. So I'm curious what that's going to be.
Yes, I'm also curious. Please don't make it a show. Is it going to be a movie?
I think it's a movie. Yeah,
I
think it's a movie. And Catherine McNamara is going to be in it, or Loretta Devine's coming back, apparently. Oh, this is according to IMDb, so who knows if it's true or not. But it says that Rebecca Gayheart's going to be back and Loretta Devine's going to be back. According to IMDb.
I feel like you could do a lot of really cool stuff with creepypastas that aren't overdone, and like you could probably do it in a smart way, like playing with digital folklore and there's so many weird urban legends now, like from the internet. I bet there's a really cool way you could do that. I hope they try that and not like remake it in the 90s. I hope
not. We have Fear Street. We don't need Fear Street 2.0. Sorry, that's sassy to say, but no. I
love Fear Street. We don't need any more of it. We're good.
Yeah.
So, do we want to wrap this up and give this our rating out of 5?
Yeah, I'm just looking to make sure that...
Wait, Terry, did you ever tell us how you first saw this?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, no, I didn't. So, it's...
I was like, wait, hold on. We missed an entire chunk of, like, your story with this movie.
I mean, I don't really have, like, any really fun stories about it. I saw it in the movie theater. This was, like, right because like Cass, I've mentioned this on the podcast a number of times, where I fell out of the horror genre because my parents became really strict, and it wasn't until Scream 2 came out that like I fell back in love with the horror genre, and then I was like obsessed. And so I went to go see every single fucking teen horror movie that would come out between then and like the early 2000s when they started to run its course. So everything from Wrong Turn to Venom, which
Soul Survivor.
is a movie.
Sorry.
Soul Survivor, yes. All of the like bad PG-13 horror that was coming out, because like PG-13 horror is not bad, but there were a lot of bad PG-13 horror movies that came out in that little time frame. But just like I was so obsessed with it. I remember seeing this movie theater, and I remember living for this finale. But then going to school, and like all of my, because like at the time, all of my friends that liked horror movies that I remember, like I have Nikki, my bestie, she loved it, but like a lot of the guys that would say it hated this movie because they didn't like the ending. And I always thought, why? The ending is what makes this movie what it is. Yeah. And I like looking back on it now, I think I was like realizing that this movie and Scream, both written by gay men, I think that there was some kind of resonance there that I was getting that I couldn't put anything to, because I didn't know who wrote these movies. I didn't know they were gay. But like I do think, looking back on it, that is kind of what kind of attracted me to these things and pulled in, because this ending is pure camp in the best way. And I just love how like with Scream 2, where it's like they seem perfectly normal, and then by the end of it they're just wide-eyed, going ham, chewing scenery, just doing all that kind of fun stuff. And I just remember really loving that part and not knowing why.
Yeah.
Until you're 42 and you're like, you were so gay.
Yeah.
Okay. But now do we want to wrap up and give this a rating?
Yes.
All right. Hold on. I have a mouthful for this, so let me just pull it up so I don't mess it up. All right, Terry, how many curly heads of hair full of secrets out of 5 do you give Urban Legend?
Oh man, when I was adding this to Letterboxd, I saw that I gave it 3.5, and I'm gonna have to bump that up half a head of hair and go up to like 4. Yes, we're gonna have to pump up the volume. One thing really briefly, because I'm just looking back at my notes, and this was one of the first things I wrote down. I don't know if this is like, if this is a across the United States thing or not, but do you guys remember when full service was like the only way to get gas?
Oh yeah. Yes. Did not like it.
I just love that, like, she goes to the gas station and, you know, Brad Dourif is the one that's pumping gas because, again, full service. And, like, there's some places, like Oregon still does it, but, like, a lot of places now, of course.
New Jersey.
Oh, New Jersey does, too?
I'm pretty sure.
But, like, I was just like, that was just, like, a bit of nostalgia, because I would remember as a teenager pulling up, getting the gas, they would check your oil, they would wash, like, do all this kind of stuff. You would give them a tip. It's so weird. But anyway, yeah, this is for, what is
curly
the long...
curly head of hair full of secrets.
Yes, curly heads of hair full of secrets.
Jesus,
4 of them. Give me 4, Brenda. Actually, if we're going to do that, give me 5, Brendas. But give me 4. 4 curly heads full of hair. Oh my God. Full of secrets.
I'm sorry.
I know, I love it, but it is a tongue twister.
Oops.
What about you, Mary Beth?
I'm giving it 4 as well. This movie is so fun. It's obviously, you know, it's a 90s slasher, but I think it's really playing with that meta slasher stuff in a really smart way. The cast, for the most part, is incredible. I think Brenda needs to get more attention as, like, a good for her villain. I think we don't talk about her nearly enough, and she's fucking incredible. Like, mwah. I just want a shirt of her and Laurie Metcalf together, like, holding hands. But yeah, this movie was just like such a blast. So 4 curly heads of hair full of secrets for me. And Cass, you have the final word. How many heads of hair, secrets at all?
I'm going to say 4 heads of secrets with hair.
Yeah, that's it.
And
it.
it's close. And then we'll have to make a shirt after this with Laurie Metcalf and Rebecca Gayheart, and it says tender and scary, and that's going to be our shirt.
This is perfect.
Fuck, it's so good. Okay, it's okay. We're gonna write that down somewhere for later. Wow.
Well, thank you so much for joining us,
Thank
Cass, to talk
you.
about this delightful movie that holds up to time, in my opinion. Where can listeners find you, and do you have anything coming up that you can share and talk about?
Listeners can find me on Twitter until it burns down in flames at Cass _ Clarke. My website, Cassandra Ash Clarke, has all my work, mostly up to date. And please check out my queer horror novella, The Caretaker, coming out from Hero Scream Press this summer, if all goes well, fingers crossed.
Hell yeah.
Awesome.
Listeners, you've heard from us. We want to hear from you. What was your experience with urban legend? Send us an email at scarredforlifepodcast@gmail.com or reach out to us directly on Twitter. I am at MB McAndrews.
And I'm a Gaily Dreadful.
And of course, don't forget to follow the podcast on Twitter at Scarred Podcast.
And please don't forget to review, rate, and subscribe. Sign up for Patreon if you want to help support us. And we have a Letterboxd account, so follow us on Letterboxd.
Woo! Thank you to Eric Power for our artwork. Thank you to Sean Keller for our music. Thank you everyone for listening. Please stay safe out there, but most importantly, stay creepy.
And until next time.